document over and over again at this conference, where people have talked about being affected in that way. You know, whether it's been budget cuts or whatever, there have been some positive aspects to it. Sometimes I'm hard pressed to think of them, but you know, like for us, we've shifted 95% of our purchasing and monetary power, which has been cut as well, to online sources. It has facilitated a complete multi-year re-examination of our cereals, traditional cereals. We've lost half our library space. We've lost half of our staff and faculty. But even so, we're becoming I think in some ways, a tighter organization, for better or for worse. And I think people will have to, each of us is going to have to redefine ourselves. And I'm wondering if any of you have thought about that. Are you redefining yourself as well as your, when you look around your environment and how it's changed? I'll stop talking now and let you have some input.
May I?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm at Ithaca College in Ithaca, New York. That is to say, I'm not right now. I'm working from home. But I was going to say, I have seen, you know, small ways in which the pandemic has changed us that are positive. Like, I don't have to commute 40 miles every day to work and back, just as a for example. And, you know, little things. But the really big picture change that I see is a much broader one. And that is, not only are we seeing enormous budget cuts, our entire capital budget was cut. No books, no videos, no bindery, no student assistants. There's no students in the building to speak of. So that's right now, it's not a problem. And, you know, severe cuts also to our electronic subscriptions, which are the only materials that the library is currently purchasing. But I see, and we've seen staff cuts across the college. And right now, you probably saw in Chronicle of Higher Education, Ithaca College is also planning to cut 131 faculty positions, which is new for the faculty. They are not used to being on the chopping block at all. And it's really freaking them out. But I see this as the whole of higher education, and I can't speak to public libraries or special, but the whole of higher education has long since been unsustainable. And we have kicked the can down the road for decades. And now it's come to the crisis point, and we have to change. And it is going to be very, very painful. It is already. But it's necessary at the same time. All the millions of people carrying outrageous student loan debt they will never get out from under is crushing a whole segment of our culture, not just our economy, but the people's lives as well. And we must change. And you can say that all you want for years and years, and everybody would agree, but nobody actually did anything. Right. Now we're being forced to do it. It's a positive side effect, but it's going to be very hard and very painful, my opinion.
Well, change is always hard.
We, like for us, all the staff, the ones that are remaining, the ones that didn't get riffed and the ones that haven't retired, have all been given multiple assignments. So that's something I've been seeing as well. We are breaking down organizational silos. Any of you who know me know that this is one of my interests in life and professionally, is organizations and how they function. But I definitely see an evaporation of organizational silos, and no one is really, I think we're all like scared children being led to the water to learn to swim. We're pushing as hard as we can in the other direction, but it's going to happen. We are going to be doing multiple things. I've had as many as 4 to 5 Zoom meetings in a day. And like Audrey said, I just go home and crash, you know. It's like, oh, that's enough. You know, I'm done. I can't hear another thing. But that's going to be the reality for as long as I'm willing to accept it. I agree with you totally.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Eleanor said it happens. There are more positives.
Yeah, they're positive. Eleanor, what do you think?
Hi. I'd like to
Morning.
give a plug for the presentation that Tony Zanders and I did day before yesterday on this very topic of, how conferences in general are changing. One of the big positives is that people who could not travel in the past because they either could not afford to or they were being somehow held back. There are many, many different reasons. Everything from racial inequality to disability to financial or family obligations. There are many different reasons, but people have better access to this conversation if they don't have to travel.
It's
Now,
more inclusive.
Right, more inclusive. Having said that, we all agree, I think, that travel in itself is an experience that helps people broaden their capabilities or their intellect. But, I think the hybrid model is where we're going for sure. So that the inclusiveness will be the positive for sure. So there.
Agreed.
I've been in the business now 36 years, and truthfully, the travel part of it has been one of the most enjoyable aspects to the yearly passage of time. But I also understand that this, for instance, is a much better, more effective way to have a meeting, certainly on the local scale, because, after all, they're just, I don't know about other people, but for us, there is absolutely zero money for travel. Is that your general experience, everyone? What do you think about this environment? Does this work for you?
Works for me. I mean, I love going to Charleston.
I do too.
I have friends in Charleston, so we get to stay longer and stay with friends. And my husband goes with me often. And so it's fun and I really like it. We've gone to the beach on the weekend and we've spent time with friends, and the conference is exhausting. I don't get to do much shopping or anything else like that during the conference other than go to good restaurants.
That's true. You know, folks, we have 3,000 attendees this year. That's an amazing number.
From 18 countries.
18 countries.
This is really cool.
Yeah. And, people did come from other countries before, but I can't imagine the time. I had a dear friend who used to come from South Africa, and he would spend so much time on the plane just to get here, which speaks well for the conference. Jury's out.
I certainly missed the conference, being there, the food, the place, everything, the history. It's been great being there the last 2 years. It's nice to say, like you say, everything is, budgets are shrinking, but it's nice to think that you might skip a year in Charleston, but you could, now with everyone kind of reorganizing around virtual conferences, that you'd be able to jump in on a virtual conference, somewhere else instead, something you've never gone to. That could give you other insight into your job. So you're stretching in different ways, you know what I mean? And everyone, again, the budgets are challenging for everyone all the way around. They were already to begin with, and they're only getting more so. But I've also enjoyed the projects that I've been able to do since we've kind of been working from home. I like working with my collections. I certainly miss being on site working with the materials and stuff like that. But I've been able to do a number of collections assessment projects remotely. I had circulation staff reassigned to collections because they weren't having to be in the library to serve people. And so they've been working with me on gathering data for different assessments. Things that were in my like 3-year plan that I hoped to get to, but hadn't really planned to get to because there was no way we're going to get to them with the staffing levels that we had. But with COVID, it's sort of this pandemic has kind of given us an opportunity to stop doing the things we were doing so much and kind of, take a step back to re-examine everything. We've got like a curbside delivery, smart locker system that's going to the library for pickup now. Something we never really allowed in the library with even our new system, organizing around having holds and stuff like that. We were looking at doing a renovation project, and it's a good thing that we've been talking about it for 20 years in our library, trying to renovate, expand, change the library. It's a good thing that we didn't do our renovation, before COVID, because now we can consider these kind of things with the pandemic as we're kind of going forward. I'm not sure, we'll have to get funding and get the renovation off the ground, but in a way, things that kind of, were held up and held up maybe our thinking and stuff, and kind of we were deadlocked on things like offering a pickup service at our circulation desk before the pandemic. Now we have one in place. So when we go forward with the renovation, some of those things are already in place that make it easier, right? As you go along. How do we do this? Will we shut off this part of the library? Oh, just make it a pickup service, right? We can do that anytime. It's sort of in our toolbox now, right? So we've kind of retooled ourselves, re-equipped ourselves better going forward, just because of the immediate pressures that this put on us. So I think there's a lot of positives depending on how you look at things like that.
I think in many ways, this whole experience may bring out our sort of innate creativity in developing these kinds of programs like the pickup service. I know there's a home delivery service now, and kudos to our public library. They are on the ball so many ways. They've got delivery service to homes. They've got all kinds of things. Who knows where this will all go? We really don't know. We're all looking at ourselves in a new way. And we are, if you think about it, we are establishing a new normal for libraries that people will inherit. I saw Karen, I saw your posting. I do miss the restaurants. I miss taking the new people out for a dinner.
Really?
I always enjoyed that part of the job of being a conference director.
Jack
And if
and
you
I
find bad food at Charleston, I'm sorry, you were looking for it.
Jack and I were participating in the dine-arounds. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
have done that. Yeah, you have. Good. So the next time we're there, let's all get together and go out. Yay. Michael, where are you from?
University of Winnipeg in Manitoba, Canada.
Lucky.
I was listening to a program yesterday. It was largely Canadians talking about the impact of COVID on their institutions, and it was remarkably similar, I thought, to what's happening in the States, with some differences, but largely the experience has been the same. The cutting of budgets, the reduction in staff, the whole. Is that something you've been seeing as well, Michael?
We had about a 3% budget cut, but in theory, we're supposed to be able to get it back due to, applying for different COVID kind of grants and stuff like that.
No.
It should be net neutral. Sorry. Oh, and then the other thing is, we do have some on-site teaching. We're supposed to be hybrid. Largely 90% of it or so is online. But we've been able to keep our numbers stable. We've lost a lot of international students, which has certainly helped with things with the budget and whatnot, because international students do pay more. But we've been keeping, we've got a lot of people that stay locally and are in between jobs now and are looking for education. So as far as the number of students registered, it's pretty level. So we're not really cutting positions. In fact, I've got a colleague that's going on leave, and we were able to repost her 6-month leave, for a copyright and scholarly comm librarian. And because of the job situation, we're not requiring the person to be here. So if anyone's interested, wants that posting and stuff, I'll post it in the chat. If anyone's looking for a Skullcom, short-term Skullcom and copyright position, that'd be great.
Michael, I'm looking at your, it's got to be a background. Otherwise, you live in the most interesting place imaginable. It looks like the deck of the Enterprise or something.
My home office in the basement is a little bit messy, but yeah. It is the original Star Trek background, yes.
Sorry. Are there any vendors here? It would be interesting to get a vendor publisher perspective of the panel presentation I did yesterday. We had a JSTOR panelist, and they've been very, JSTOR has been very helpful to libraries in what they've been doing. So I just didn't know if there were any other vendors who are in this session who would like to speak up about what they're doing to help libraries. Yes, it has been a strong impact on vendors too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently the vendors are not here this morning. That's fine.
Good morning. This is Gina Ferrigno with Rittenhouse Book Distributors.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, I attended that same COVID session, and I've actually learned a whole lot this week. What I'm hearing, I handle all the four-year institutions. It's a new position. We've restructured, and I'm now handling all the libraries across the United States. So I'm actually getting to get a nice feel of what everybody is going through. And on our end, we're really looking, we've actually put out a marketing piece to see kind of what libraries are feeling out there with the COVID impacts, and we're assessing it and restructuring and kind of inventing our wheel forward in regards to all the library responses. So it's been really a nice transition from our end. We were just recently purchased in the end of June at Rittenhouse, and we have two amazing new owners that are really putting in effort to accommodate these new changes that we're all seeing and that everyone's speaking about. So it's very exciting for us. We're renegotiating because, we're an aggregator of content, and we have new negotiations, new ways, new technology. We extended a lot of trials through COVID, which has been really a big benefit for a lot of the libraries to learn where maybe their needs are with electronic resources. And our PDA model that we have has been beneficial. And I've seen many libraries come on our tube just because they're able to have access for free and not purchase resources as a collection. They're able to see where their needs are and just kind of align that with their budget and reevaluate what they have. So that's kind of what I've been seeing on my end.
Thank you. It's great to have the vendor perspective. That's one of the really good parts about this conference is there's such a mix of people.
Yeah.
Representing different pieces of the industry.
I miss the actual location as well. I used to live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and so I just would drive. And now I'm in Sarasota, Florida, and that was one of my favorite conferences. So, yes.
We used to live in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and now we're in Tampa.
Oh, yeah. I went to USF, so.
Oh, okay. That's where we are, my husband and I.
Nice to meet you.
Same here. Anybody else have any thoughts on positive ways to move forward? I mean, there's so many things that have been impacted. Obviously, budget, assessment, personnel, technology. Then there's copyright issues. And then how is our leadership at our campuses doing? And what about the organization of culture in our institutions? These are all kinds of topics that we could talk about, and talk about the negative, but also the positive. Like, what kinds of changes do we see coming down the road that will be positive?
Well, we had a 12% budget cut. We knew at the end of March that we were going to have some sort of cut to the acquisitions budget because the campus got an 8% overall cut for everything. And we didn't know how much it was going to be, so we did some serious planning, trying to get ready for whatever. And I was grateful it was only 12%. But one of the things that we are actually focusing on this year, now that we scrambled through that at the last minute, is, okay, I can't tolerate having a budget with absolutely no flexibility to make big purchases for more than a year. So I've got to figure out how to restructure my entire budget, because I'm anticipating that this budget is going to be flat at best for the next 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
One thing we have done, just to maybe is this helpful to you, is I was in charge of collection development too. We've lost 80% of our library materials budget for traditional print and video. There is no more video. There's no more DVD, no more any of that. It's all what we do is streaming. One thing that we've done, and it has worked, is that we've made the whole process of collection development a team experience.
Well, we started moving towards that a couple of years ago. When I first got here 5 years ago, 80% of our budget was allocated out to departments, and that included the serials budget, which was, made it real hard to pay for any kind of package.
Right.
So we started working on that then, and now I'm looking at this and saying, okay, this is an opportunity to require people who are accustomed to having more money every year to cover serials inflation to go back and think, is that really essential? Who is that serving? Is the fact that I have 3 people who love that enough to offset the very low overall use on that particular product, or do we really and truly need that to meet some specific need? One of the problems that I've been addressing with faculty this year, as they talk about this, is, and they're actually being really cooperative. They get this. They all lost money too. Is that we can't do things based on majority rules, because we have a lot of very small departments and a lot of very large departments. So just the opportunity to encourage people to rethink, why are we doing this the way we do it?
Exactly.
We've always done it this way is not necessarily good.
Exactly.
One thing that's helped us tremendously is the reliance upon usage statistics. Because if you can generate the kind of statistics, the kind of numbers that show that if you had a $12,000 physics journal that was used 4 times, then you have to set up in our way, we've set up ILL with Get It Now. And you can justify money-wise that you can actually spend less and get the same number of those same 4 articles, even if they're $50 a piece.
Exactly.
So that kind of stuff is becoming our norm.
Yep.
And it's very painful because, you have to call Professor Bombastic and say, I'm sorry, the one you've written for the last 30 years, we got to cut it because no one's using it. And that's hard for him. There is a lot of diplomacy that we're being called upon. But if you have numbers, if you can show those numbers, you can certainly make a much better, a defensible posture is what I call it.
I completely agree, and that's where we have been working towards, and we're getting better at that. Including my subject librarians are getting better at making those phone calls. The first year we had to actually cut things, I had subject librarians calling me and saying, please, can you go with me to meet with the department? You know, and I went happily. And now we're doing more of the, okay, I've got to go meet with the department, go over my numbers with me before I do it, which is good. Real places I'm having problems aren't the journals. It's things like business databases that you can't get through Get It Now and document delivery.
There's also the aspect of sharing the cost. That generally brings people into a realm of reality that they weren't in before, especially in terms of departmental money. All of a sudden, its value has to be measured against how much money can you contribute to the maintenance of this database. That puts you into a really messy political situation as well.
Oh yeah, but like I said, right now, everybody on campus lost money and lost people because if you weren't tenure track or in a contract,
yeah,
because some of our non-tenure track people do have long-term contracts. If you weren't in one of those categories, you probably are not working this year.
Yeah. Has anyone seen an impact on, this is just a personal interest, has anyone seen an impact, for those of you that have it, on faculty status? Do you see a lessening of the focus on faculty status? I just kind of throw that out there. See, hey, Tom.
Hey, Jack, how's it going?
All right. Has anyone seen that?
That's been going on at USF for a while. So we're hiring more instructors.
Yeah. Has anybody else had that experience? Do you see a lessening of faculty status for librarians? All right.
Yes, unfortunately, it's true. Faculty status for librarians is an endangered species, I think.
Yes.
I agree.
My institution changed our way of hiring 6, maybe 7 years ago. I can't remember exactly when it happened, but when we hire people now, they come in as teaching professors rather than tenure track. And they have an advancement process. So it's similar, but not the same. And, due to the recession in 2008, there was a move to change as many people as possible off the tenure track so that there would be more flexibility, is the word they like to use.
I know we do. We're in the process. We finally got 2 positions approved, and you had to have 2 masters. All of a sudden, that's gone. Now all you need is the MLS, which is very interesting. And as you can imagine, this has not been happily received by a lot of the librarians here because they.
Pittsburgh and Philly.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
I heard a voice.
What did you say? 110,000. Philly's been 80% Biden.
Yeah, is that?
So we have somebody talking about the election.
Also been
What now?
60% higher for Biden.
I missed some of that.
It seems there's a side conversation about the election.
Okay.
I wanted to mention at my work.
There's decent probability to call the race by the end of today. So
Okay.
I work at the same place that Eleanor does, but we're at different libraries. But this year I was elected to the faculty senate for the university, and I love getting to be an officer. I'm at the highest level I can be as a fixed term faculty. I'll never be chair unless some bylaws or whatever are changed, but it's been really neat to see the inner workings of our institution. Also in such a depressing year, of course, but it's great to be able to have some kind of, just to be part of, like, knowing a little bit more about what's happening.
I know I've enjoyed being full faculty and going and serving on, last year I was on the faculty handbook committee, which doesn't sound interesting, but it actually was, because there again, you're learning more about how the university actually functions. I think that's really critical now, especially in these times, that we all make sure that they can see our faces, make sure that we're just not those folks over sitting in the library. That's something that this whole COVID thing has really driven home. Don't you think, Audrey?
I'm sorry, I was reading the chat, so I was distracted. I apologize. Can you say it again?
I was just thinking that we really and truly, oh God, I lost my thought. I'm sorry. Shoot.
That's okay.
I haven't had my coffee yet. But in terms of faculty status, it's been helpful to be a part of the university, and I think it's absolutely essential that we be absolutely visible, even in this kind of Zoom environment kind of atmosphere we have, that we absolutely must get out there and must make ourselves known. I remember years ago talking to a person in Charleston who told me that they were being moved, the entire tech services was being moved to a little building off campus. And I thought, oh no. And the next year, this person was not there. We can't afford invisibility anymore. And I think a lot of, especially the younger librarians, get this. They totally get this part, which I'm glad. That's a positive. Is that your experience? I see some faces.
Well, I think from where I am at the University of South Florida, we've had so many people who are about to retire or should have retired. But as new librarians come in, I think they're much more forward thinking and out there engaging with the faculty much more. And I think it puts a new face on what librarians are, which I think is positive.
I think so too. Marlena, what do you think?
My daughter's playing saxophone right there, so I have to go to mute. But I think that technical services. Here she goes. Technical services. We have one person who does our cataloging, and she's doing it from home successfully, but she's still going to have to go into the office at some point because we got books over there. But we're a medical library, so we don't have very many. So for us, this pandemic, we already were ordering a lot of electronic, so that we haven't seen such a shift. I'm interested more in what's happening with Eleanor because they have a lot of physical materials at the music library that she's in charge of, and then over at the Joiner, a lot of physical materials. I don't know how they're processing all those.
Well, we actually are going in to the office. Usually only one or two of us at a time, not everybody all together, but we're open 10 to 2 Monday through Friday. So we are still acting like a regular library, but we have an occupancy limit, and anybody who comes in must be wearing a mask. And I'm happy to report we've had 100% compliance with that. Nobody's given us any grief about it at all.
Yeah.
So it's been fine.
I know I was surprised to know that we have an entire dorm of students who've tested positive for COVID. And they're keeping them on campus, but they're not going to class. They're doing it all online. It's sort of like if they send them home, they could spread it there. So they're keeping them sort of in an encapsulated dorm.
Boys and girls, let's get started.
Okay, Gracie Bug, come on back, sweet pea.
Whitney, could you please mute?
Sorry.
That's okay, thank you.
One thing about Zoom is you learn what's going on in people's homes, and you meet their pets. Has anybody seen that?
Oh, well, I had a vendor conversation last night, and the 6-month-old puppy lost his first tooth during it.
Oh.
So glad I don't have any pets, but it's always nice seeing everybody else's. Where are all the Zoom cats, Heather? Yes, Karen just showed us one. I'm looking over at the chat. Melissa asked if you could ask people to leave the library if they don't wear masks, because at her university, they've been told they can't do that.
We have a box of masks at the desk, and we just hand them one. Put it on or leave.
That's right. That's what we do too, except we haven't had to do it.
No,
Because
actually,
our whole campus is this way.
The students get it. You know, usually you'll hear some staff member, well, I don't believe it does anything. Put your mask on. I don't want to hear this from you.
I had to tell our staff early on that, because we never did close. We went to about 80% working remote part-time, but we never closed. I had to tell our staff early on that failure to wear a mask when you're not in an office with a closed door by yourself gets you written up and goes in your personnel file. And 3 of those, according to the HR policy, requires me to put you on progressive review. I forget what the name of it is here, but basically it's either you improve or you're fired within 3 months. And yeah, the staff have been really compliant, although they weren't happy with it to start with. We kick some students out pretty much every day. And we've also got a designated corner because the university here has said if people are actually eating, you can't require them to have a mask on while they are putting food in and out of their mouth. So we're like, okay, that's the corner where everybody that wants to eat has to be. We're not going to enforce mask rules over there. And it's sort of scary because that corner is always full. But yeah. But I have a private office, so.
Has anyone out there closed their stacks? That's something we have done. We have closed stacks now.
We don't, but what we have is a seat reservation system. So a student has to make a reservation to come into the library, and the seats are socially distanced. They have to go to the seat that they're assigned to, check in, and we give out through a vending machine, a spritz bottle that's free to the students. So they have to wipe down the area. Then they can go into the stacks. They have to wear a mask. And then they can sit down at their seat with the books that they have. But when they leave, they have to also spritz everything down.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who pays for that?
The university.
Okay.
Which is why we have the library has a $2 million budget cut coming up this year.
Thanks.
Yeah. And actually I was going to mention this earlier. So we are beginning the process of doing very deep analysis of our recurring costs, starting with cereals and looking at cost per use and other things. But we're going to start on bundling packages.
Mm-hmm.
We're stepping at staff have been transferred to interlibrary loan and to collection development for this kind of analysis and to step up the interlibrary loan process.
Yeah, I've seen a real shift. I've got a new kitty. A real shift towards interlibrary loan, and it's interlibrary loan for a long time was kind of this sort of important. Everybody understood it, but now it's moved into a position of prominence, which is interesting. While on-campus delivery has kind of diminished, which is really surprising to me. Now, do you quarantine the books when they come back in, the physical items? that you okay. I see some heads nodding. How long do you quarantine them for? 4 days, Karen?
I see a range here between 3 and 5.
5 days?
I think it's 3, but I'm not in access services, so I'm not really sure.
We've got a 2-week one, and that seems a little long to me.
That's ridiculous.
We've got a access services quarantines them, but they've also got a UV box that our makerspace built for them, and they move things to the UV box from quarantine through the UV box. And
Oh, you let the light.
they have a student worker who spends the entire day just going, okay, put my gloves on, move, put a book in, hit the button. You know,
That's very interesting.
take the book out. They actually wind up having 2 people running that most of the time, because the student is supposed to have a different pair of gloves on when they put in and when they take out to avoid contamination. One of the things that we had fun with up front was deliveries. Like a lot of acquisitions places, where's the delivery zone for the library?
Mm-hmm.
And my staff were all like, should we be quarantining this stuff? And what if it's a FedEx, overnight? And the courier system between buildings has been sort of fun on the quarantine question.
Absolutely.
Well, we trust our people to be wearing their masks and their gloves and using the hand sanitizer the university issued. We're not sure we trust the rest of the university to be so careful.
Someone said they can't open, Judy Lee says, I can't open the physical library, have full classes back on campus. And so it's all remote right now. Is that happening for anyone else? That's an interesting, so the library is not open at all, or?
At our university, the undergrads are online only this semester, but the grad students and the medical students and all that, they're there on campus for their class, for a lot of their classes.
Where is that? Did you say that earlier?
It's East Carolina University in
Oh,
Greenville,
okay.
North Carolina. But in the spring, they're going to be having some of the undergrads coming back for face-to-face. They're going to do I think it's 30% is the max that you can have in a classroom for the spring, is what they were saying.
When you say we're not opening, do you have a delivery service, Michael?
Yeah, the curbside and the smart lockers.
Okay.
We're in a part of the renovations. We're in a really old building, and there's concern about the air and having too many people in the building, and if it can be filtered properly. So we're limited. We have about 6 staff. It's about 10% of our staffing in the library during the week to pull books, to do the curbside. Pick up. The smart lockers are just ramping up now, so that's what we're doing. But most of our stuff is online. The high demand stuff was the textbooks, like I imagine for anyone else, that if you had textbooks for different subject areas that you were allowing. We're doing scanning now, which is another service that we've introduced. So we'll scan articles from like an encyclopedia, whatever is needed within copyrights and stuff. So we have rules and we've got scanning set up. So we're trying to, deliver the stuff so people don't have to necessarily come into the library.
I see a lot of different, if everybody's looking at the chat, I see a lot of different options going on right there.
Yeah, I wanted to reply to Erica that we're doing the same thing. Our students are not coming back to campus after Thanksgiving.
Right here.
I also wanted to pick up on an earlier thought about interlibrary loan and the uptick in that. And I'm wondering how that, and if it will, affect copyright in the future. Anybody have any thoughts about that? Do you think that will change? Could it change?
Sure. Are you talking about interlibrary loan from the point of view of if you were to try to do it with electronic materials? Is that what you're saying?
No, the number of times you can loan something or how much you can use of a particular, for instance, an ebook.
That's what I said, an electronic ebook.
Are you thinking
Yeah,
about
that as well as how many times you can loan something out or borrow something, I guess is what it is, because you can't borrow from the same journal more than 5 times, right?
Okay, you're talking about journals, not books.
Well, both, but whatever. What implications are there for copyright in that regard?
Our copyright librarian has very firmly pointed out to us that those rules are based on the Contu guidelines, which are not law. That
Right.
that they were developed 20, 25 years ago as a safe harbor set of guidelines, and they are not law and have never been law. And so we need to be thinking about what fair use actually is, rather than saying, oh, well, this is a strict Contu guideline.
I think there's a white paper that's coming out, if it hasn't already, by Brian Miller, I think at OSU, and someone at Georgetown, and talking about this topic, Contu in particular, how it's a very archaic guideline. It is not law, and to use different standards to judge fair use. So I think people have been looking at copyright before COVID, but it's definitely getting, more important now.
I'm not a copyright expert, so I'll start with that. But correct me if I'm wrong, but the ability for a library to lend our physical books is first sale, not fair use. And so that this whole CDL discussion is about how do you make an electronic object work like a physical object.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have, we are fortunate enough to have programmers and people on campus who are able to make the lockdown version. So we are only on request, as our people request physical material content. We scan whole books and then lock it down and lend it so that only one person can have it at a time. And it's sort of waiting for the law to catch up with that. We are at least making a good faith effort to stay within the confines of the first sale thing.
E-transfer.
You notice I'm reading a question from Raquel Estrada. We notice a large decrease in printing, so we are expecting to have some money available for other things. Anybody seeing things like this? When you say printing, are you talking about people copying in the library? Is that what you were referring to, Raquel?
Yes, we actually pay for like toner and paper for students to like print out their materials. So and this is one of the things that we started to track, because we noticed a large decrease in that. And so, as I mentioned, we're expecting, or we're hoping, that we'll have kind of that money set aside and for any future cuts or any other things that might come up. And I guess, are there any other areas where you've seen like a decrease where, you might have a little bit more extra money than in normal years?
Well, we definitely also have had a huge drop in that activity, but I doubt we'll see any savings from it, because like other people are saying, they'll either eliminate that or cut that budget anyway. But in a music library, as you might imagine, you have people that need scores and all kinds of music, printed music, and it's fair use for them to make photocopies, and scans. Yeah, they're not doing it in the library so much anymore for obvious reasons.
Maggie?
Generally, when we get some sort of savings, it sort of disappears into sort of the chasm of the university and is never seen again. So I don't think we're going to realize any kind of savings from it. I've suggested, let me read you one. This is from Ginger. I've suggested buy from ILL request programs for several years. It's getting serious consideration. Now, what do you mean by that, Ginger?
We get ILL requests for things that we don't own, and sometimes they're new publications. And for 4 or 5 years now, I've been suggesting pretty much since I got here that, we really ought to buy those rather than trying to borrow them. If it's we ought to have some guidelines and say, if this is a relatively new publication that's appropriate for the collection, just go ahead and buy it for the collection instead of borrowing it, especially because I often see those same titles borrowed 3 or 4 times before I buy it.
We do that.
And this year in January,
187.
we had some changes in personnel happening. And so they started thinking about, well, maybe we could do that. Last week of March, I got asked, do you still have the money for that? I'm like, here you go. Let's implement it. It makes no sense to me not to have some sort of system to buy the new stuff that's getting requested on ILL that you would want to buy anyway.
That's actually a form.
Patron driven.
Yeah, it's patron driven. Yeah, exactly. Of course, we're totally in e-preferred. The only time we're actually buying anything physical is where it absolutely is not available, and I mean absolutely not available in any other format but paper. We're buying streaming content. I'm sure a lot of people have switched to buying streaming. Is that the case, or are we all by ourselves?
No, we've got a lot of streaming. In fact, we use CARES funding to buy even more. And I'm not saying the music library, but our main library just bought a whole bunch of additional streaming services using that kind of funding.
One of the things that we've seen is that we have Get It Now. When I say that, does everybody know what I mean?
No.
Get It Now is a service very much like it's essentially replaced ILL. You can make a request. The file will be sent to your inbox, generally within 2 working days. So as you might imagine, it's become wildly popular, and it's wildly expensive. I'll give you an example. In 3 years, we went from a $5,000 initial outlay to over $30,000 for this. But it's one of those things, once you turn it on, it's very, very hard to turn it off.
That's what happened to us with streaming video and Canopy. And now we're struggling.
Yeah, we had to jump in and mediate the streaming from the beginning. We thought we'd have to do that more with PDA programs that we brought in, but it really hasn't become the kind of thing that people feared would happen. People are being very responsible with their choices. We have Dodge Canopies. Okay, what do you use instead of Canopy?
We don't have streaming video.
Okay.
We have an incredible, huge collection of DVDs. We have a communications school and a number of filmmaking majors. And we have a guy who's the main part of his job is digitizing stuff from physical ownings within whatever is considered to be allowed. Again, that's not my area of knowledge. But this year, like I said earlier, we have 0 capital budget, which means no books, no ebooks, no videos, no bindery. And so it's challenging. We have the only money that we have in that area is a small endowment fund, which gives each of our 8 subject area librarians $568 a piece. That's not good for the whole year. That's not a lot of money. And then we're hoping to get anybody in New York State, we get CCDA, the Coordinated Collection Development monies. We're expecting to get some of those that should help a little in the second semester, especially since the endowment money is limited strictly to books, no videos, books by North American authors. And it's been really hard for our music librarian because, forget it. It's a tough year. It's a tough year.
I know our foreign purchases, we had a number of foreign language programs. Some are still alive, has all but disappeared. We don't really get anything from overseas anymore, which is in some ways sad. But I think we'll just have to adopt.
So I'm writing something in the chat. We're coming up on time. Does anybody have any lasting or final comments that they'd like to make? Well, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, it's been fun.
It's been an interesting conversation.
Nice to meet y'all.
Same.
Nice to meet you as well. Let's
Stay
all
agree.
healthy. Let's all agree to get together at least to have a cup of coffee or something the next time we're in Charleston.
Exactly. Sounds great.
Take care. Have a wonderful rest of the conference.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Take
everybody.
care.
Be safe. Have you noticed that that's added to everything now?
Yes.
Everybody, be safe.
Well, we've got so many people who are like, oh, it's like my husband was telling me this morning, there was an election coordinator who had COVID and knew it and still stayed.
Ooh.
And he has died. And
2,000 people voted.
And 2,000 people voted there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, the thing of it is we don't hear is that COVID damages you physically. I have a dear friend. I'm a folklorist, and he's a classic folklorist, a really fine guy, 42 years old. He got COVID. He survived it. His heart is irreparably damaged. His lungs are irreparably damaged. He's not coming. He'll never be what he was.
Yeah. He's young.
Yeah, he's very young to be in that kind of condition. He's going to be on medication for the rest of his life.
Mm.
So this is, people, oh, it's not that serious. I heard people get over it. No, folk, come on. Don't listen to folklore, so to speak.
Well, it's been fun, Jack.
It has been fun.
Yeah.
What show? Let's see who's, okay. Just to let you know, I just applied for another New York position.
Oh, where's that?
At the Senate Library in Albany.
Oh, interesting.
We've decided Albany would really work for us. It's big enough so that Leslie can find meaningful work. It's how beautiful little homes. Oh my gosh, so many pretty little homes of the kind that we like. The city has got a lot to offer, and it's right there near so many beautiful places.
It is. It's in a very good location.
And the last time we drove up, did a day trip to Saratoga Springs, which is a gorgeous little place.
Yes.
We'll get there.
Yes. Good luck.
Yeah, same to you. And how's the house coming?
It's moving along. So they've got the posted beams up, and now they're putting the roof on, and they're enclosing the walls, and it's moving along.
I'm glad they did that for the really harsh weather.
Exactly.
Moved in.
Yeah, they want to get it in. Well, so we had to start actually fronting some money before we actually got the loan in order to be able to enclose it by time before the winter.
Oh, there's something coming in behind you. Oh, isn't that beautiful? How cool is that?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for asking, though. We're so excited and looking forward to moving in June. And Mark's going to retire because there's been a retirement buyout. But I actually asked my dean, well, I don't know if the retirement buyout is going to be for non-tenure earning librarians or not. faculty.
Yeah.
Right now, at this point, it's for tenure earning faculty. But I asked him if I could work like 60% of the time remotely, take some time off to do the move and work remotely from New York. 60% would give us insurance. And he said, yes.
He did?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I would still do like, I'm on this collection development advisory group trying to figure out how to properly communicate with faculty on all of the changes that we're going through with our collections.
Mm-hmm.
And then I love working with I'm the liaison for College of the Arts, and that's really fun. So I would be doing those two things basically in 3 days.
You know, that's a nice way to do this.
I was
You
really
are so
happy.
smart. Yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, I was really happy he said yes. I proposed it and I was like, I don't know what he's going to say. He said, that sounds reasonable.
Well, I think what we were talking about today, you know, we're seeing this evolution of our roles, and you've got a forward-thinking dean.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he sees the potential. Don't lose the valuable people. Let them have a creative way to work.
Well, the thing is, he would lose the line. It would be swept away. He wouldn't get it back. And he said, I see many of us working remotely in the future anyway. Things are going to change.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Way cool.
Yeah. So good luck to you. I hope you
Thank
get
you.
that job. And yeah, we'll be able to see each other in New York.
That's right. You know, why not? You know, who knows where this is all going to go?
Right. Right.
And who knows? We may be back in Charleston next year.
Yes. Yes. That would
Well,
be
take
nice.
care. I've got
You
to
too.
get to a Zoom meeting of all
Okay.
things. How
yeah,
do we do this? Just leave or?
Yeah. Like,
Okay.
and
And
Bye.
we're